If you follow anything going on in the sim racing market right now, you know that absolutely everybody is making a GT wheel. PXN is trying to step into that space with the new PXN GT ONE, and the question is, will this be able to compete, or is it just another friendly budget option? Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Jake with Inside Sim Racing, and today we're going to be doing a full review on the PXN GT ONE and doing a full dive into this wheel. So, starting off, this wheel will be coming out on April 13th, if I can actually get to the camera here, April 13th, and this will be priced at $199 for the early birds from April 13th to April 26th, and then after that it will be $219. This wheel is primarily focused around a true value wheel and for entry-level sim racers, but in this video we'll see if it goes beyond that. So, without further ado, let's get a little bit more in depth on this wheel. Alright, so here we are with the PXN GT ONE wheel. So obviously within the box you're going to get the wheel, I would hope. You're also going to get a USB coiled cable for basically a link so you can run it like a wired setup. You're also going to get a sticker pack with a little toolkit, your user manual, stickers, all that kind of stuff. And you also see here this little cable. This little cable goes on the actual inside of the quick release. Today we're going to be using this wheel on our Moza rig, so this will be on a R21 base. So if you want to run this actual wheel on a different base that's not a PXN, you know, you have these powered pins at the rear with the motherboard. Just to make sure that you don't fry these or hurt anything on the motherboard, all you have to do is just take these 4 bolts out, unplug this really quick and bolt it right back up, and it won't supply power to the actual hub anymore. So you can run that wired link. But if you are just running this on the PXN base, like say you bundle it with the VD6 or the VD10, you can just use this quick release right on there and it's completely wireless and it'll work just like that. So this is going to be your standard size for a GT wheel. This is going to be 300 millimeters and it's going to have the TPE grip material. Feels really good on the actual hands. It is a bit hard and there's not too much actual durometer to the grips. But they do feel really good in the hands. I have big hands, and the spacing and where I can place my fingers is really nice. I have plenty of room for my thumbs. So really liking that design. This is basically made of a fiberglass composite frame with a carbon fiber surface, which you can see here. And you know, this is designed for multiple hand uses. So I think this wheel would really suit both big and smaller hands, which is really nice. And the overall build quality on this for the price, I have to say is really neat. Getting a little bit more into the inputs, you are going to have a total of 78 input signals on this. So you're gonna have 4 paddles, you're gonna have your shifter paddles and your clutch paddles at the rear. There's 12 programmable buttons along the side here, and at the top you're going to have 3 rotary encoders right here at the center, which have a very nice click to them. You have 2 thumb encoders up here. You have 2 funky switches, and like we talked about, you have the clutch paddles on the rear. And I think that pretty much covers it. So you have really nice selection of buttons, and they all seem very intuitive to use. One of the big things I like about this wheel is, let me actually get this over here. I don't really have to move my hands very far to get to any of these buttons. Obviously, you got to take your hands off the wheel to get to encoders. I think that's pretty standard on any wheel, but the spacing on the paddles and for my pinkies and the clutches, they all feel really good. Very impressed with the overall layout of this wheel. I'll bring you up closer here just to have one really good look at this wheel before we get it over to the actual rig and get it set up to do some driving. Cannot get this to get into the camera to save my life, but there you are. Very big fan of dark colors and not using anything too bright. Having like the little subtle accents of the orange is really good. So let's get this bad boy set up on the rig and actually do some driving and see how it feels. Now that we are set up on the actual rig, we're going to be using the PXN wheel on the Moza R21 today. So we are going to need to plug in our cable. So let's go ahead and do that. So now that we have the wheel actually plugged in, we have the PXN Sim Racing software, which we will leave a link in the description on where to actually download that. And once you have that downloaded and installed, you'll see that we have the GT ONE up here. And before we can actually use this wheel properly, we will need to hit these two buttons right up here at the top. Wait about 5 seconds, and you'll hear a noise. The wheel will do a reset, and it'll reconfigure, and you should have a check mark, and everything should be good to go for the GT ONE. So now that we have that set up, you can see just the amount of colors that are on this wheel. And right up here we have the RPM indication light, which is really nice to have on the wheel. And getting a little bit into the software for the actual lights, you can see that just the amount of options that you can customize. So your encoders down here, you can change them from a rotary, so they have left and right values, or an absolute mode if you have, like, say, well, there's 12 indicators on one of these encoders. So if you only have, say, like ABS, for example, if you have 12 values, you can just set this encoder up to mimic that ABS module. So it's really cool, and you can adjust all three of these encoders to whatever you'd like. So you could have this one on absolute, or you could have this one on rotary, completely customizable, as well as you have telemetry feedback. So you can turn TC on for basically what is the RPM indication. So say you wanted to know if your TC was actuating based off of a light, you can set that up on the RPM indicator to flash, and you can change the flashing speed. There's so many different options that you can do. And right here you have the clutch paddle calibration. You can see like your clutch mappings. For a $200 wheel and the actual software integration, it's really cool. And I don't think you really need to use anything other than PXN Sim Racing software, but this is also SimHub compatible. So you can set this up in SimHub, and let me switch over to that for you right now. So you can see now that we have SimHub loaded up. If we go down to devices here, and we go to add new device, if you make sure you do update. If you're just downloading SimHub, you won't have an issue, but if you have an older version of SimHub, make sure you update it so you can actually see that the PXN GT ONE is in the system. But after you do that, right up here you have the PXN GT ONE. Just hit OK, and you can see that the device is connected, and it unlocks all these different options for actually messing with the settings on the PXN wheel. Right here you can just click on these different presets. You have all these different controls for like brightness, telemetry. It's basically everything in the PXN software, but a little more involved. And you can do just a few tweaks here and there that are a little bit more advanced than what PXN has to offer, but you can get about 80% of the job done on their actual base software. So I'm here with the USF 2000 at Barber, and I've been taking some laps on this wheel for a little bit now, and honestly I have nothing but great things to say about it. I think for a $200 wheel, this is obviously not meant to tailor to higher end rigs, but I think for entry level and for people that are trying to get into like a GT slash a Formula style wheel without breaking the bank, I really do think this is a great option. The only things that I could really find over long driving sessions is the grips themselves. They feel really good, but they don't have like a lot of durometer or give to them. And they get a little, what's the best word to say? You really work your hands into them, and obviously your hands get hot over extended use, and they just get a little like slidey. Kind of don't feel, the grips themselves feel great, but the hands just kind of start moving around after a little while, especially if you're running like a higher force feedback. But the great things I do have to say about the wheel is the actual button placement for everything is really nice. Like when I'm driving, like these top 3 buttons, all I have to do is just fan my thumb. Same with the encoder, same with this one down here. I have to get a little bit more involved to get to these lower ones, but really it's like you really don't have to work that hard to get into any of the buttons. And the less you have to think about it while you're driving, the more comfortable you're going to be and the more fast you're going to be. But like the paddles, they're a little noisy, and you can hear like just by tapping them, they're a little noisy, but I really don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, if you are trying to sim race very quietly, like an apartment or something like that, I still think they'd get you by. They're not like incredibly loud, but they're also not quiet either. As I go yard sailing off here, I really do like the encoders for how cheap this wheel is. Like I said, everything is incredibly intuitive, and obviously we talked about the customization on the telemetry lights and everything like that, so it's a great looking wheel. I have no problems with how it looks. I personally enjoy a more black wheel, just kind of like dark accents and stuff. Well, I should say darker colored wheels with very subtle accents. So having like the all black with like the carbon mesh is really up my wheelhouse. And then just like the small little accents like the orange encoders is a really nice touch. So, and of course the adaptability with this wheel, being able to run the coiled cable, the link cable on third-party bases. Well, I shouldn't say third-party, but external bases is wonderful. And just having that innate software support if you are running like the VD6 or the VD10. But the fact that this can just it's just a standard ball lock quick release and can go on any wheelbase is really great. This thing feels absolutely awesome. This is the R21, and I figured what better way to test the actual durability of this wheel than to run it on a base with a high Newton-meter threshold. So, and it's holding up great. There's no creaks, there's no noises. It feels very sturdy in the hands. I don't feel any wobbling. I mean, I can push on this thing and working around and nothing. It's super rock steady. So, for the most part, I have nothing but good things to say about this wheel, so why don't we wrap this up and get into the last little nitty-gritty details about this wheel and see if it might be the right choice for you. So now that we've touched base on everything that this wheel has to provide, where does it stack up? I'd like to start with the strengths on this wheel and just talk about the amount of options that you get for $200. And that starts with just how many buttons this wheel provides for the price. You have the 3 facing encoders on the front, you have the 2 thumb encoders, you have the 2 funky switches, and you have all these buttons along with shifter paddles and a clutch for $200, which is really great. You have the LED support that's also telemetry supported for the LEDs and all those different configuration settings, customizable lights, sim compatibility. So you have all these different things, and you have cross compatibility for multiple ecosystems. As I said, we are running this quick release on the Moza R21 with the wired cable. So, I mean, those are 3 really good selling strong points for this wheel, especially at $200. So you might be asking yourself, where does this wheel stack up to others in the similar price point range? Well, the first 2 that I can think of at the top of my head is the original Moza KS steering wheel, as well as SimMagic's GT Neo. Now, between the 3 of them, there is not a lot of different trade-offs for the wheels to share. The biggest thing is all 3 of them have cross-compatibility for whatever ecosystem that you're on, considering all of them adopt a quick-release ball lock style, and they all have direct cables that you can hook up to run them externally. so you can run them on different bases. Now, the only thing I do have to say about the Moza wheel is it is the only one out of this lineup that does not have SimHub compatibility. But all three of them respectively have their own software with telemetry and LED functionality and adjustments within their actual software. So I think between the three of them, it's a really hard wrap. They all have great button functionality and buttons to spare in terms of encoders and switches. They all have RPM shift lights. I think the real big trade-off is whether or not you want to use a base that is native to your actual ecosystem. So all three of these wheels, respectively, to their bases of the same party, are all going to be wireless, and you don't have to run a cable, and all have that native support. Between all three of them, I think they're a great option, but it's really hard to beat $200 for this wheel with just the amount of stuff that you get, and especially being able to bundle it with the VD6 or the VD10. This wheel serves as a great option for whatever you're doing. Now you might be asking yourself, who is going to want to buy this wheel? Well, if you're somebody that is already running a PXN base with, say, one of their round wheels and want a Formula style wheel and want to stay within the ecosystem, that is going to be your prime candidate and your prime target, and they'll serve as a great upgrade and entry-level Formula/GT style wheel to get your skin in the game. Or if you're just running any other base and want to get into a Formula GT wheel very cheap without breaking the bank, I think this is a great budget option and would suit your needs perfectly. So another thing to note is that this wheel's demographic is mainly for entry level and is not really meant for competitive or high-end sims, although you could use it if it does strike your fancy for whatever reason. Now, you might be asking yourself, who is this wheel for and whether or not you should buy it? I think if you are on a budget setup and you're looking to get into an entry-level GT Formula style wheel and you don't want to break the bank, or you're already within the PXN ecosystem and want to have a Formula GT wheel style to back up your setup, I think this is perfect for you. I think if you're already on a high-end competitive setup and you're looking to collect wheels that are of, super high quality, not to say that this wheel is not quality, but, super high quality, expensive, I don't really think this is for you. I really think this is mainly suited for budget racers and kind of that entry level to mid-range area. One last question I would like to leave you guys with before we wrap this up is, do you guys actually see yourself buying this for your setup or a beginner setup? I really think that if you're coming into this and you're trying to buy a VD6 or VD10 within a bundle, I think this wheel is a great option. So I'm really curious to see if this whole setup actually suits your fancy. So that being said, that is going to wrap it up on the actual review for the PXN GT ONE. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I think this is a great budget wheel, so I'm looking forward to see what you guys think. And with that being said, I have been Jake with Inside Sim Racing, and I will see you in the next video.